Greetings in the name of the Almighty God, who was and who is ever to come. You're welcome to The Vibes, and my name is Mr. Francis O. Today we're going to talk about South Africa and about Mr. Julius Malema, the man who is now pulling crowd anywhere he goes. Because of the truth, because of what he wants to do. Malema wants to be the next president in South Africa. And Malema remember what the South Africans went through before Mandela, before they get independence. And this is what he wants to fight for. That country, the people in that country, we have their own place, their own business, not controlling by Europeans or Asians who are full up in that country, so that you can enjoy the lovely cake of the nation for the whole South African. Some don't like him because the problem now is that they think Malema, when he comes to power, he's going to drive out all the Asians and all Europeans, all Americans. Or maybe he will do, or maybe it's not. Because it happened in Uganda. Remember, Idi Amin, he sent all of them out, the Asians, especially the Indians. And then, who again? Mugabe did the same thing. And now, if Malema come to power, this is a very, very, very scary situation in South Africa now. If he become president, is he going to take all of them out, the white people out? And remember Apartheid, what they do to South Africans. Now, that is a big question in that country. And right now, anywhere he goes, he pull crowd. First, let's listen to Malema, the answers he's giving people sometime, even in court the other time. Listen.
Yes, my point to you is that your party, from what I understand, has received about 10% of the vote. At the way it stands no possibility of ever being elected into government. Do you currently run any municipalities, for example?
I'm going to be president of this country, whether you like it or not. Yes. And I will preside over the affairs of this country, including presiding over you. I think you must start adjusting to that reality. The sooner you do that, the less chest pains you'll have when that reality comes.
What chest pains would result?
Racist chest pains. It is white people who must be ashamed of what they've done to us. You cannot turn tables now and want to blame me for the crimes committed by white people. It is a white regime that killed children in 1976. It is the white regime that killed children in the 80s and in the early 90s. It is white people who engaged in the wars of dispossession and forcefully took our land and our cows. Why can't you take responsibility? Why can't you for once just say sorry for the crimes we've committed against you?
As proceedings continued, tensions rose.
Your parents have left you a bad name. So that is the context I'm using it. So please, if you are going to be a legal representative, you are going to have to reduce yourself from this case as an individual. Remove your emotions and deal with me as a professional. Because if you are going to come to me as a personal person, individually, I will no longer look at you as a professional. I will decisively deal with you as an individual.
During his testimony, he accused the AfriForum of playing victims.
A black child's trauma is not a trauma. We are still a traumatized nation, if you don't know. And that trauma is real. And don't push us to that pain. Because when that day comes, we'll not be scared. We've lost everything. We survive by the day. We don't know what tomorrow holds for us. White people stole our land.
Which one?
White people who came and settled here.
350 years ago?
Yes.
White people now are land thieves.
Yes. They remain land thieves.
They remain land thieves.
Yes. The land has not been returned into the hands of the rightful owners. For as long as you are in a possession of a stolen car, you remain a criminal.
Shoot to kill him! Shoot to kill him! Kill him!
Well, you can see or you can hear that he's a man who doesn't give up, and he knows what he's talking about. And this is creating a lot of panicking in South Africa right now, because soon is their election. And if he win power, or if he come to power as a new president in South Africa, do you think Malema is going to drive all the white people out, or is going to pay them back as apartheid what they did to black people? Or what do you think? Leave your comments down there. But then, let's listen to white people who are also in South Africa, who like him. They like what he's doing. Let's listen to them.
Now, your political views are unequivocally aligned with the politics of the left. One wonders, why do you care so much about black people? Because mostly when I listen to you, you talk about the plight of black people, the poor and the marginalized.
Well, perhaps to introduce myself, I always describe myself as a white settler, as a true foreigner in the country.
Yeah.
And perhaps we can look at that later, this dreadful concept and practice of African brothers and sisters turning on African brothers and sisters. So I'm being interviewed today still as a settler, still as a privileged white person in what we call a democratic South Africa, but which is certainly not democratic. So perhaps when I look at what my forefathers did to this country, I feel it's incumbent upon me to try and rectify some of the brutal acts of great inhumanity conducted by people like me against black South Africans.
And where do you originate from?
Titus, I'm 64 years old. I was born 64 years ago in a small town in what was then called the Western Transvaal. Now it's the Northwest Province, Zeerust.
All right.
I grew up in a conservative white Afrikaner family. And at the age of 16, for the first time, and this is also an indictment about the kind of apartheid racist society that I lived in, for the first time at the age of 16, I went to Soweto.
Okay.
And I was absolutely appalled and shocked by the conditions that I saw there. I remember I went into one of the mining hostels, and the squalor, the terrible conditions under which people were living shocked me, because I made the contrast between the comfortable middle-class white Afrikaner life that I was living and what I saw the majority of South Africans living and suffering under. And that changed my life. It was a kind of watershed moment in my life. And I started asking questions, but how can we tolerate apartheid? How can apartheid be acceptable? And it was a couple of months after I went into Soweto that the Soweto 1976 uprisings, June 76 uprisings happened. And I remember I went to my all-white, all-Afrikaans school in Witpoortjie, a very Afrikaans lower middle-class suburb. And I said, but I think the young people in Soweto are correct to protest. They are right to rise up against this oppression.
And by the way, Soweto was the epicenter of political activism at the time.
You remember how Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela's home was part of that epicenter, the home in Vilakazi Street, and the role that she and many others played together with the very courageous young people who stood up against the apartheid system, who were faced by the security police and by the army. They sent in the armored vehicles. They killed literally thousands of people. I mean, I don't think up to this day we know exactly how many young people were killed in 1976 and the resistance of the youth subsequently.
Wow, here we go. So not every white South African hates Malema, and not every black South Africans support Malema. But let's think twice, my brothers and sisters. Is it good to live in your own country and someone come out from Europe, or you live in Africa? Or let's put it in this way. If you travel right now as a black man away from Africa and you go to America or Europe or whatever, you need a visa, you need a working permit to stay there. All right? But these people, most of them has been traveled to South Africa, to many places in Africa. They don't even have a working permit, but they just have a businesses and they stay there. You know? And even the ones who have working permits, they employ people and then they talk to them. You know, they disrespect them. They talk anyhow to them because they think they got the money, and if you do, they can arrest you, let police arrest you. How can you live in your own country and you are not free? A foreigner come and take all the business and give you something to do and treat you, the way you don't like. So right now, in your own country, they treat you bad. You travel, go outside, it's also treating you bad. Why? God doesn't do this. God sent all of us here to this world to come and live as one people, okay, and prepare all this place. But He didn't send some people to come and rule you or to use you as a slave. No. So what we want to see in Africa is that if you're a Chinese, American, Indian, whatever, you came there, you are in Africa. You have to be humble, and then you have to go through the laws of Africa. You don't come there as a king. That's not right. That is not right. Okay? Because they said if you go to Rome, you do what the Romans do. How then you can come to Africa and then use the people anyhow and disrespect people? And these things are happening in many places. We saw it in Zimbabwe. We saw it in Uganda. We saw it even in Kenya and South Africa a lot. So I think it's a time for we to, live as one people, and not you come to my country to slave me. That's not right. So this is the panic what is going on right now in South Africa. They think that Malema is the man who doesn't deal with such things. So when he comes to power, he's going to drive all of them out, and there will be very, 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 very serious things going on in South Africa. Leave your comments down there and let's see what we can see. But what I'm saying is that let's live together, and when you travel to someone's place, try to be humble and stay there as brothers and sisters. But you don't go there to rule the people. They say if you go to Rome, you do what the Romans do. So when you come to Africa, you have to do what the Africans do. My name is still Mr. Francis O, and this is The Vice. God bless you. Subscribe. There's still more to come.